Evening, this is Chat UTD and a follow-up to yesterday's video where I gave my thoughts on United cutting their donation to the Association of Former Manchester United Players. Their £40,000 a year donation has been cut. I'm outraged by it. I spoke about why I was outraged by it, why it goes against the values of our club, why it's so morally wrong, and how concerning it is. And I must say it's got a lot of views, which is great. By my standards, a lot of views. And subsequently, a couple of other channels I've noticed have done videos on it as well. Not because of my video, obviously, but they've done videos on it anyway. And I think reading between the lines, what I can see is this has united the fan base. I think everybody knows this is in such bad taste, this decision. So I'm going to sort of do a follow-up on that today, and also a little bit of a preview of the Newcastle game, although by the time it gets uploaded, the Newcastle game probably will have started. For me, this is a tipping point for me with Sir Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS and our club, in that I didn't want them in the first place. I started this channel to talk about the takeover saga as it was at that time. I made it very clear from minute one I wanted a full takeover of the club, and whoever represented that within reason I would be supportive of. If that was Sir Jim Ratcliffe that did a full takeover of the club, fine. But my worst case scenario basically was what happened. And when it was confirmed it was going to be Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the roughly 25% that he's taken and the Glazers staying, I said at the time, the club's done. The club's finished as a serious football club. But this is what we've got. So you have to learn to adapt to it, and you have to learn to accept it, and you have to learn to try and find positives in it. And that over the last year or so, there have been some positives, to be fair. There's been some negatives. And this recent stuff with the cost cutting and the penny pinching has for me just shed new light on it. I said last year, look, if the Glazers stay, they'll run us into on their own with nothing. It's not an option because they'll just run us into the ground. It's Armageddon. They'll kill the club. They were killing the club as it was, but they will just let it rot because they have no intention of running the club. They don't want to do anything, not even anything that's basic and straightforward. The only time they've ever got involved is to make decisions that have made things worse. They're not interested in United. They just use it as a bank, and I don't think they've ever really tried to hide that. So we'd have just died if the Glazers were there. But I said last year, all INEOS do really is provide life support. We're not going to die anymore. But what quality of life do United have moving forward? Because we haven't got the finance that's needed to do what we need to do, which I'm going to come back to in a minute. But for me, there's three things that are the nail in the coffin regarding my support of INEOS, which was wafer thin anyway. The three things are this situation, cutting the £40,000 a year donation to the Association of Former Manchester United Players, is disgraceful. And the more I've thought about it, the more I've spoken about it to people, the more annoyed I am about it. So that's one thing. The fact that we're going to take the tickets away from the Busby family until Ferguson intervened is disgusting. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is the hike in ticket prices. And the fact that now there's no concessions for youngsters or students or OAPs. Listening to someone today, it said the season ticket roughly works out about £41 per game. If it goes up to £66 per game, that's a £25 hike per game. I mean, I'm not very good at maths, but that's a 30%, is it, or 33% hike in the price, or even more? That's not in line with inflation. That's, again, I've used the word before, that's absolutely outrageous. So those three things have led me to the conclusion, you're not for me, I don't want you running my club. If I was being pragmatic and saying, let's try and put all that moral stuff to the side, What if they could provide us with what we need to be successful on the pitch again? Would that make me change my mind? They can't do that. I said I was going to come back to it. I'm going to come back to it now. I said this last year. From our starting point, where we are, which isn't their fault, by the way, that's the Glazers' fault, but from our starting point, nonetheless, the money that's needed to get us to even be a reputable football team again that we can identify with, that are consistently finishing in the top 3 or 4 season in, season out, is a monumental amount of money that would be needed to do that. Plus the fact that we've got issues with PSR, we've got issues with FFP, we've got a squad full of players who are on watertight contracts, which are ridiculous. We've got a stadium that's rotting, that needs at least $1 billion spending on it, and we've got absolutely loads of debt. You've got all of that versus the odd 100 million that Sir Jim Ratcliffe might be able to put into it. I said at the time, it's not enough. They haven't got enough to do what we need to do. All the best, by the way. I wanted to do a video over the festive period and have a beer, but it just hasn't panned out that way. But here we are. When this takeover saga was going on, unless Qatar was a red herring, we had Sheikh Jassim and the 9-2 Foundation, or Sir Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS. And I think, understandably, some people in the fan base had worries about the morality of having Sheikh Jassim. They were perhaps thinking it really looks like he's just fronting up for what is actually a state-led bid. And that brings up questions of sports washing and human rights and how people treat minorities from that state and all those things. Completely valid stuff. Completely valid worries about the morality of the people that were leading that bid. Excuse me. Versus Sir Jim Ratcliffe and INEOS. And he was being portrayed as a local man who's done very well for himself, who has much sounder morals than the fella from Qatar. He might not have as much money, but he's not going to muddy the club's name, and he's going to probably uphold the values. So this is what it comes down to for me. I wanted an owner who could uphold the values of the club and make us successful again. Just those two things. Well, let's fast forward to now. Are INEOS upholding the values of our club by doing the things that I've been speaking about in the last video, and the penny pinching, the cost cutting, the alienation of local people, and connections to things that make United who they are? Are they upholding our values by doing that morally? No, they're not. And are they going to lead us to be successful on the pitch? In my opinion, no, they're not going to be. Qatar, Sheikh Jassim. First and foremost, Sheikh Jassim and the 9-2 Foundation are from Qatar. That doesn't necessarily mean, I'm not being naive when I say this, it doesn't necessarily mean that he is one of those people who has abhorrent values. But I might be wrong. But regarding Manchester United, would he uphold the values of our club in the way that he ran our club? In my opinion, yes. I don't think he would cut the £40,000 donation to the Association of Former Manchester United Players. I don't think that for a second. I don't think he'd take the tickets away from the Busby family, and I don't think he'd hike the ticket prices up because he wouldn't need to. And I think he would have enough about him to know that there's values here that we don't really need to be getting involved in because it works. The club's a shit show. The club's a mess. The club's not been successful for quite some time and isn't probably going to be successful for some time. We've still got all that to sort out. But in terms of the values of the club, he'd just leave well alone because he can. But then let's look at my two criteria: are uphold the values of the club and get the club to be successful again. Would the club be successful again under Qatar? In the end, yes, because he could clear the debt. The stadium would not be a problem at all. We'd still have issues with PSR and FFP, absolutely, and we wouldn't cheat our way to success like City have done because we wouldn't be allowed to do that, and I wouldn't want us to do that. So that's fine. We wouldn't be able to do that. but we would be able to, we wouldn't be needing to penny pinch and do all the moral things that Sir Jim Ratcliffe's doing wrong in order to try and be successful. We'd have a clean slate, we'd have a blank slate, we wouldn't have the Glazers in the background, we wouldn't have any of that complication at all. So when people said, well, the Qatar thing's a fantasy, you know, like it's a ridiculous thing to say, like Sir Jim Ratcliffe presents us with a chance of having a local guy that's going to run us properly. It's what's best for the club. How is what he's doing right now best for the football club? And as I say, forget the success on the pitch if you want. Morally, how is what he's doing best for our football club? Because our values at Manchester United are we look after our own, we care for people that work for our football club or have worked for our football club, and you keep very close ties and links to the local community and former players and stuff like that. And he is just shat upon all of those things. How is what he's doing best for Manchester United versus what Sheikh Zaz fucking hell, the 9-2 Foundation. How is that versus the 9-2 Foundation? That's only my first beer. How is that better? How is what's going on now better than what the 9-2 Foundation could have done? It's not, is it? And that's what we were led down the garden path with during this whole process. The club was saying, whatever we choose to do is going to be best for Manchester United. Well, on the pitch, off the pitch, sticking to the values, chances of success, none of that can be achieved with INEOS. And all of it would have been achieved with the 9-2 Foundation. So, down the years, I've found myself many times saying, I'm done. I'll take my kids to Stockport County, I'll take them to Buxton, wherever I'm at to watch football. I'm done with this because I've got frustrated. I know myself well enough now, as I evolve and as I mature, hopefully, to say, you can't be done with your football team and your football club. This is part of who I am. I might be less invested. I might give less time to it. I might give less emotion to it. But it's my team. But regarding the people that own our club, I'm disgusted with them. And I'm disgusted that they own our club. And that's INEOS and the Glazers, both of them. Because if you're not going to give a £40,000 donation a year to an association of former players, then you are either incredibly mean and Scrooge-like, and or you are completely skint. In which case, you shouldn't have taken this on. Or the club's completely skint, but you're part of it and you've taken it on. You should not have taken this on if you're having to make decisions like this. You could go back to the Glazers and say they just wanted someone to front up for them. They just wanted a mug to front up for them who could actually make some decisions and actually do things that needed to be done. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. But Jim Ratcliffe knew that when he got in bed with them, when he got into a partnership with them. If you can't do what's best for the club, I'll go back to it, to uphold the moral values of the club and be successful, which you can't, quite clearly, financially you haven't got the means to do it, then why have you done the deal? So, let's look at what we can do about this. So, particularly the Association of Former Manchester United Players. I've put a link in the description to a GoFundMe page for fans to donate to. If you can, if you're in a position to donate to it, I'd encourage you to do that, of course, if you can. If you can't, share the link with people who you feel can, or just share the link far and wide. That's one avenue of raising money for the Association of Former Manchester United Players. I think another thing that probably will happen, and I hope people like Gary Neville, Rio Ferdinand, Roy Keane, whoever, the richer ex-United players have got to get involved in this. I'd say they are also former Manchester United players. Could they join that association and make themselves gift givers, if you like? Because together when Mata was into his charity, Ander Herrera loves United. You could have together. They're rich enough to dwarf the £40,000 a year that the club were giving. So that's another avenue. You've got, like him, lump him, whatever, like him, loathe him. The United stand, Mark Goldbridge, apparently has said that he would set up some charity stuff, or even the channel itself would give at least the £40,000 a year to keep it going. So there's fan channels. Hopefully they can chip in, and then you've got the current players, as I mentioned in my video yesterday, could contribute to it. The top and bottom of it, I think, is the AFMUP, Association of Former Manchester United Players, will keep going, and actually will probably be better than it was if all of this hadn't have happened, because, as I say, you've got fan donations, you've got the richer ex-United players could get involved, and there's a high profile to this now. Obviously, there's channels like the United Stand and such, and current players, or all of the above, could more than match the £40,000 that was going to them from the club. So I think they're going to be okay. You might go, we shouldn't have to do that. It still doesn't take away from what the club's done's wrong. Absolutely. What the club's done stinks. But it makes them look so bad if fan donations, richer ex-United players, fan channels, and current United players, or any of that variation of those people, start to fund the Association of Former Man United Players. How bad does the club look? Good. It shames them, and that's right. But bringing it back to something positive, and I'm coming back to the values of the club now. We as fans, fan channels, the richer ex-United players, we will and can uphold the values of this club. If the owners won't, as I say, because they're not for me, they've showed themselves in a light which suggests they're not for me. If they won't do those things, then we will, because the values of this club is, you look after your own. If someone's done something for this club, you appreciate them. It is like a big family. So if the owners won't uphold those values, we can, in what we do. So as I say, the link is there in the description. And if you feel like you can get involved, get involved. But ultimately, the AFMUP will be okay, I think. Onto the Newcastle preview. Not that relevant, really, I suppose. I'd love tonight to see a siege mentality. I'd love to see that kind of like, look, we're in a position here where we're 14th in the league. We've got our midfield's missing, Ugarte and Fernandez are both missing. Newcastle are coming to us in good form. We're a complete sitting duck. But let's galvanise ourselves. Let's give the crowd something early doors to get behind. Let's put a few big tackles in. Let's put in a performance tonight which gets everyone behind us under the floodlights around the Christmas period, and let's get ourselves a result, because everyone needs a lift. You'd love to think that can happen. But the issue is, we probably play Casemiro. Does Casemiro represent Man United in that way? Is he that bothered to do what I've just suggested? Probably not. Is Eriksen? Probably not. Rashford's back in the squad, apparently. Is he? We know he's not. So I'd love him to pick some young kids, or at least have some young kids on the bench who can come on, because they're our own. They would be like that. Don't think the ones that are there are that bothered. Don't think they see it the same as I just portrayed it to be there. I'd love to think it could be a crackling atmosphere tonight where we get a result against the odds. But I just don't think that'll happen, unfortunately. I think Newcastle will probably win quite comfortably. But the other stuff I've spoke about is far more important. So please follow that link that I've put in the description. And thanks again for the views. And hesitated a bit there, but I am going to say it. Glazers and INEOS out.